Have you ever wondered what sparked the cataclysmic event known as World War II? Our story begins in the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, ended the Great War but sowed the seeds of another. This peace treaty, imposed by the Allies, placed the blame for the war squarely on Germany's shoulders. The consequences were crippling. Vast territories lost, a slashed military, and harsh reparations that led to economic despair. For many Germans, this diktat was a national humiliation, a bitter pill to swallow. Out of this post-war disillusionment, a new political ideology began to take root: fascism. In Italy, Benito Mussolini, a charismatic orator, promised a return to national glory. His fascist party, with its emphasis on authoritarian power and nationalistic fervor, quickly gained traction. Meanwhile, in Germany, a similar sentiment was brewing. Adolf Hitler, a decorated World War I veteran, rose to power with his National Socialist German Workers' Party, better known as the Nazi Party. Hitler, like Mussolini, railed against the Treaty of Versailles and promised to restore Germany to its former greatness. His charismatic speeches and promises of a better future resonated with a populace tired of economic hardship and political instability. On the Eastern Front, in the Soviet Union, another figure was rising to prominence. Joseph Stalin, having consolidated his power after the death of Vladimir Lenin, was transforming the Soviet Union into an industrial powerhouse. But his policies came with a heavy price: political purges, forced labor, and widespread famine. As the 30s rolled on, tensions escalated. In 1939, Hitler's Germany, having already annexed Austria and the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia, invaded Poland. This blatant act of aggression was the final straw for Britain and France, who had long been appeasing Hitler in the hopes of preventing another war, and so the stage was set for a conflict that would reshape the world. With a world on edge, it didn't take long for the first shots to be fired. As the storm clouds of war gathered, it was Poland that first felt the brunt of the Axis powers' aggression. On the 1st of September 1939, Germany invaded Poland, swiftly employing their infamous Blitzkrieg tactics. This lightning war was characterized by fast, concentrated attacks aimed at disorienting and disrupting the enemy's line of defense, leaving them vulnerable to encircling forces. Poland's valiant defense was, sadly, no match for the German onslaught. Simultaneously, the Soviet Union, in line with the secret protocol of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, also invaded Poland from the east. Caught between two aggressors, Poland fell within a month. This swift and brutal act of aggression marked the grim opening salvo of World War II. Next, the Axis powers turned their gaze westward. In the spring of 1940, Germany invaded France. Despite the formidable Maginot Line, a series of fortifications along the Franco-German border, the Germans outmaneuvered the French by invading through the Ardennes, a move the French considered unlikely due to the dense forest. In a mere 6 weeks, France capitulated and the Nazis marched through Paris. Across the English Channel, Britain braced itself for the inevitable onslaught. The Battle of Britain, as it came to be known, was fought primarily in the air. The Royal Air Force, though outnumbered, defended the skies with tenacity and resolve. Despite the relentless German air raids, Britain held firm, bolstering the morale of the Allies and proving that the Axis powers weren't invincible. Throughout these early stages of the war, the strategies of the Axis powers were marked by swift and decisive actions. The Allies, caught off guard, struggled to respond effectively. Yet, even as countries fell, the spirit of resistance ignited, serving as a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. As the conflict spread, it was clear that this was not just a European problem, but a global one. The war raged on, but the Axis powers soon found that they were not invincible. Let's turn our attention to the Pacific, where a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor by Japanese forces in December 1941 jolted the United States out of its neutrality. This event dramatically altered the course of the war. The sleeping giant, as Japan referred to the United States, was now wide awake and ready for battle. The entry of the United States, with its immense economic and military resources, marked a significant shift in the war dynamics. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the brutal winter of 1942-43 was proving to be a formidable enemy for the German army. The city of Stalingrad became a stage for one of the fiercest and bloodiest battles of the war. Despite initial successes, the German forces were eventually encircled and defeated by the Red Army. This marked the first major defeat of Hitler's war machine and a significant turning point in the war. Simultaneously, halfway across the world, the Battle of Midway unfolded in the Pacific. In June 1942, American forces successfully intercepted and destroyed 4 Japanese aircraft carriers, dealing a crippling blow to the Japanese Navy. This victory marked another turning point, halting the Japanese expansion in the Pacific. As the war raged on, it was no longer a strictly European affair. Countries from around the globe were drawn into the conflict, each contributing to the changing dynamics of the war. The involvement of non-European countries, such as the United States, China, and many others, marked the truly global scale of this war. The tide was shifting. The once seemingly invincible Axis powers were beginning to crack under the pressure. Defeats at Stalingrad and Midway had shown the Allies that victory, while still a distant prospect, was indeed possible. The tide was turning, but the war was far from over. As the Allies pushed back, the Axis powers found themselves on the defensive. In the early hours of June 6, 1944, the largest seaborne invasion in history took place. Known as D-Day, it marked the beginning of the end for the Axis powers. Thousands of ships, planes, and soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy, France, in a daring assault that would change the course of the war. The Allies, with their sheer numbers and determination, broke through the German defensive line, marking a decisive turn in their favor. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the Red Army was moving westwards, steadily reclaiming territories that had been lost to the Germans. By the spring of 1945, they had reached the gates of Berlin. After weeks of intense fighting, the city fell to the Soviets, symbolizing the collapse of Nazi Germany. But halfway around the world, the war was far from over. In the Pacific, the United States was facing the challenge of overcoming Japan's deeply entrenched defenses. The solution they chose was as devastating as it was decisive. In August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The destruction was unimaginable, and the impact immediate. Japan surrendered just days later, marking the end of World War II. These final stages of the war were marked by bold strategies and immense sacrifices on all sides. The D-Day invasion, the fall of Berlin, and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were key events that led to the end of the most devastating conflict in human history. They illustrate the lengths to which nations were willing to go to secure victory and bring about an end to the war. Finally, after 6 long years, the war came to an end. They were 6 years that changed the world, and their impact is still felt today. The end of the war did not mean the end of its effects. In the wake of World War II, the world was left in a state of profound change. The conflict had reshaped the political, economic, and social landscape, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to influence us today. One of the most significant outcomes was the establishment of the United Nations in 1945. Born from the ashes of the failed League of Nations, the United Nations was designed to foster international cooperation and prevent future conflicts. It was a beacon of hope in a world weary of war, a testament to the human spirit's resilience and determination to build a better future. But while the United Nations represented a new era of cooperation, the post-war world was also marked by division. The Cold War, a long period of political and military tension between the Western Bloc, led by the United States, and the Eastern Bloc, led by the Soviet Union, began. This ideological battle would shape global politics for the next 4 decades, influencing everything from space exploration to cultural production. Perhaps one of the most tangible symbols of this division was the fate of Germany. The country was split into 2 separate entities, the democratic West Germany, aligned with the Western Bloc, and the communist East Germany, aligned with the Soviet Union. This division was a stark reminder of the war's far-reaching consequences. But the effects of World War II extend beyond these political changes. The war altered the course of technology, leading to advancements in everything from nuclear power to computer science. It transformed societies, challenging old norms and ushering in new ways of thinking, and it left an indelible mark on the human psyche, forever changing our understanding of war and peace, of humanity and inhumanity. World War II was more than just a war, it was an event that changed the world forever.